Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world. And welcome to another episode of Glass Half Full, a podcast and a safe platform where we talk with a variety of teachers, entrepreneurs, spiritualists, uplifters, givers, shakers, and serenaders. Everyone has a lesson to learn and a lesson to share. Let's use our life experiences to enrich someone's heart, mind, spirit, and soul. Through sharing our experiences, we can be a learning inspiration for one another. I'm your host, Chris Levens. Let's welcome today's guest. Today's guest is Danielle Matthews. Danielle Matthews is a brain injury survivor and specialist in post-traumatic growth. She is also an entrepreneur and runs a global organization as a diamond in ASEA. Let's give a warm welcome to Danielle Matthews. Good morning,
Chris.
good morning, good morning.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes, we thank you for taking some time out to be a guest here on Glass Half Full. We really appreciate you taking some time today. Thank you, thank you.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and I'm excited for our conversation.
Yes. Can you tell everyone where you are in the world and what time it is?
It is 8 o'clock in the morning for me, exactly, and I'm in Florida in the United States.
Excellent. Ooh, thank you for this early morning. You sound like you have a 12 o'clock voice, like an afternoon, you've been up for
I have
hours.
quite a morning routine, Chris.
Okay,
I
good.
woke up like an hour and a half ago.
Okay, I'm like, girl, you sound like you have been up for it's afternoon, it's lunchtime for you, right? I love that. Well, we're going to jump right on in. I like to ask all of my guests this first question. I believe that our lives are in spiritual design. Can you share your life layout or blueprint with everyone? How you grew up, where, your family lifestyle?
Absolutely. So I grew up in Maryland, right outside of Annapolis, Maryland. I have one sister. She's a couple years older than me. And grew up with both my parents, my cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents were all within an hour of us. So I grew up with a lot of family around. We were always hanging out. My cousins were the same age. I was really blessed to have both sets of grandparents.
Oh, wow. Nice.
We went on family vacations. Yeah. And I went to school. I was always, like a high achiever. Okay. So I always did well academically, but I also was in sports from a young age. So I started swimming when I was like 8 and just fell in love with it. And I look back and I'm like, man, thank goodness for my parents, because swimming, it's a lot of dedication. You're in the pool. It's not that exciting for a parent to watch, I don't think. It's like these all-day meets and your kid swims for like 2 minutes of it. But I loved it and, learned a lot through sports on how to, motivate myself. How to set goals for myself, how to work with other people. I also played softball and lacrosse, and I ran track.
Oh, wow. You are really athletic.
Oh, yeah, Chris, when I tell you, I did it all. I loved it. And I think I got some of my athletic skills. My dad was a football player. He was top in high school. He got recruited out of high school to college. He played college football. And I am very blessed that I think some of that came to me.
I know that's right.
So, yeah. And even in college, I actually ended up going to the same college that he went to, University of Virginia. My mom went there also. That's where they met. And
nice.
I snowboarded in college. And that was really a fun thing. It was I just went because I liked to snowboard and there was a club that did it. And I showed up and they were like, we don't have a lot of women snowboarders competing. Do you want to compete? And I was like, yes. I always loved
Twist your arm.
Exactly. So that turned into something that literally ended up going to nationals with snowboarding.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah. So I've just always really been, I've enjoyed pushing myself, and seeing what's possible and what I'm capable of and that kind of thing.
Oh my gosh. Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. And athletics. And now currently, what is it that you are doing in your everyday life?
Yeah, well, from college to now, life has taken like a big turn, and I graduated school and did Teach for America, which here in the U.S. it's like a program that takes you if you don't have an education background, and it puts you in a low income area that's either rural or urban, where good teachers aren't wanting to go, and where the achievement gap is really big. So these kids are really just not getting. They're not getting what they should be.
Mm-hmm.
And I was placed out in Colorado, which was heaven for me because the Rockies were right there. So I got to snowboard on the weekend. And I taught sixth grade math. So here that's like, 10, 11-year-olds. And I had a beautiful time, but my world took a big turn because of an accident. And through that, though, that's what's taught me kind of what you shared, to go through post-traumatic growth, to take something really intense and turn it into something beautiful. And now I run a business, ASEA is the name, and I coach and train people all over the world. I educate people about how to help their health, how to get them physically at their optimum through cellular support, helping their cells to heal. And and I share a lot about post-traumatic growth because I think there's a lot of people that go through traumas, Chris, and it's very isolating. You're not really sure where to look and what to do. And the truth is a lot of people go through this, and a lot of people get stuck. They get stuck in having PTSD around it. They get stuck in the anxiety, the depression around their life changing so much, the grief. And I just think, we can shine a light and show people, look, what you're going through, you're meant to grow through. And it's meant to just be a challenge. Like going to the gym breaks your muscles down. These challenges in life, they break you down emotionally, mentally, spiritually, but to build you back up stronger, to make you more resilient, to learn what you're capable of. And people miss that lesson. They get it about the gym, but they don't get it about life.
It's true, right? You're so right. You're so right. But, we do have to feel that sometimes because what we already have is not in good condition. And we do need to break it down so we can refine it. And, if it's not built right from the bottom up, then it's not going to stand for very long. And this is it with life and with the physical, the spiritual. We have to have a cleaning. We have to have a reset and a foundation rebuilt, and then we can build something really special on top of it. Wow, that's awesome. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say a strong foundation is so key. And, if you've got cracks, you can't build much on top of that or it will crumble. And a lot of times I think we don't like to look at the cracks. We don't like to look at what's broken. And the truth is that's a beautiful thing. There's a Japanese art called kintsugi, if I'm pronouncing it right. And it's so beautiful. A friend of mine showed me, she has this beautiful teapot that's 300 years old, and the spout was cracked. And so they filled it in with gold. And that's such a beautiful tradition and representation of look, where you're broken, it can break you open to more beauty. Yes. And it can actually reveal things that wouldn't be there without it. And I just think that is the personification, right? A beautiful visualization of post-traumatic growth.
All right, then, Miss Danielle, you better get it, girl. Yes. I love it. I love it. You're right. You are right. And that is so correct about the Japanese art of them adding things, having things broken. It's not broken. It's just an extended piece of the art. And now we make something new and fresh with that. Yeah. So I have a friend that does pottery here, and it's amazing what happens when things are broken and he makes it over. I'm like, wow, this is way better than it was when you were, right? when you really did it the first time. It's really wow. And this was on accident, so
I love it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So I want to ask you, I'd like to talk about you brought yourself back from brain trauma that doctors said was impossible. Can you tell us before we get to that, how did the brain trauma occur? What happened to you at age 23?
Yeah, I was hit by a drunk driver. So I was out, it was 7:00 in the morning. So, there was nobody on the road. I was up early. I just spent the evening in Baltimore City, Maryland, going out with a friend for his birthday. And then I was meeting up with my parents to go to a wedding. So, I was up early, and this guy just, I'll never forget. Like, I don't know if you've ever been in an accident, but it's like it all slows down. It's like slow motion. I can still, to this day, see it happening and remember my thoughts. Like
Wow.
his car's wheel, kind of came over the midline. And I remember thinking like, oh, he's turning, because I was going to be turning at the next block too. And then he didn't turn. And I was like, oh, maybe he's like swerving around something, and I look in the lane and like there's nothing. And this is happening like in seconds. And then I like look up at the driver, because like, you make eye contact, like, what are you doing? And he's completely passed out, head slumped, and I can't do anything, like I can't turn. There's parked cars next to me, and all I could do is slow down. And he hit me head on, headlight to headlight, and airbags went off. I mean, the whole thing. But I will say this, I'm very grateful for the way in which we hit, because like that's the way a car's supposed to take an impact. It's like built for that sort of impact. And I was driving a Mazda and it did really, really well. So my physical body was okay. I actually walked away from the accident, but with the level of speed that we hit, to then go from that to it, just my brain moved in my skull, and I damaged my brain.
Oh my gosh. Wow. So after the accident, how long was it? Was you immediately picked up from the situation by the ambulance? How did you get yourself to the for medical treatment?
Well, it's so interesting, because the paramedics came right away. I was very blessed that there was a group of like 10 runners that happened to be on the same block. They saw the whole thing happen. So they were at my car like immediately helping me get out. And they called 911, and they called my parents. And when the paramedics came, I was sitting, and I was in shock. And I kept saying to them, I feel really out of it. And they said, yeah, it's just shock. And, do you need to be taken in? And we did like a little inventory, and I looked fine. Like I looked absolutely fine, except I had burns from the airbag and, some like bruising on my knees and stuff from the steering column. And, they said, well, you seem all right. The shock will wear off. And my parents were coming. So I said, yeah, I'm just going to wait for my parents. And then when my parents got there, we dealt with the cops and all that stuff. The guy was arrested. And my mom was like, this isn't normal. Like I was being really blunt. Like, I'm very happy-go-lucky. I mean, this is my personality. You all are getting it now. But then I was like very short, because I was like overwhelmed. I wasn't realizing that, I had been injured in the way I had. And my mom was like, something's off with her, like a mother knows.
Yes.
And so they drove me to an urgent care. And the woman there said the same thing, said, no, she's just in shock. Like it'll wear off. Don't worry about it. So we actually drove to the wedding, and I got to the wedding, and like, I was okay through the ceremony, and then it was time for dancing, and like I couldn't figure out how to dance. I don't know how to describe this. It was like my body wouldn't do what I was thinking, or I was just like too overwhelmed by the noise to like even think about how to move it was very weird. And I remember saying to my parents, like, I need to go lie down, and then it became very clear. Like I was having really a ton of sensitivities to light, to noise. My head felt like it was going to explode. I had a serious migraine, and it was just getting worse and worse and worse. And so we went in to see my primary care, and he said, no, I think you've had a brain trauma. You need to go to a neurologist. And got into a neurologist, and he said, yes, you have a mild TBI, which is a mild traumatic brain injury. And I remember thinking, like, that sounds like an oxymoron.
How can it be mild, right?
Yeah. But he assured me, he said, listen, it's not moderate, it's not severe. You don't have a bleed. You're not in a coma. You're actually really blessed. And he said, most of the time we try to get brain injury patients to this situation that you're in now. And I was like, well, I can't function, Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, but you can function better than they are. And I'm like, what kind of comparison is that,
I know, right? Why are we comparing at all?
Yeah, I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Right. And I think he was trying to like give me hope. I don't know what he was trying to do, but it wasn't working, because I'm like, no, I want to go back to how I was before. Right. I'm trying to move in that direction.
Oh my gosh.
And so, I think this is when being an athlete, right? You push. And So that sort of came over me, all those years of like, well, it's okay. You just do what you can and like it will resolve itself and just keep going. So I attempted to go back to work. I attempted to just resume life as I could. And oh my gosh, it was like so clear. Like I couldn't handle kids the first day of school. I couldn't handle the lights, and I couldn't remember what I just said. I'd write the same to-do list. I graded the same piece of paper. Like it was just like I didn't know what was going on. I had no business trying to like be independent in that way, and ended up losing my job.
Oh my gosh.
After. Yeah, I mean they were so sweet, but they're like, look, they need someone to teach, right? They need somebody in that position, and they said if you get better, like you've got a job always here, but we can't. I was dead weight. You know what I mean? Like yeah. I couldn't do anything. And that was probably the biggest hit for me was when I couldn't work anymore. That meant I didn't have an income. And, I had to, thankfully my parents said I could move back in with them. And so I moved home. And at this point I was 24. I just turned 24. And I just thought, this is wild. Like you don't prepare for something like this in your 20s. You don't have a plan B set up. And I became very depressed because I kept trying to get back to this life that I had been living, which was, my dream. And it just was slipping away more and more and more. And the doctors were not giving me any sort of good news. They were saying to me, it will take a month and it should be gone. And then it wasn't. And then they said, well, 3 months. And then it wasn't. And then they said 6 months and, still not better. And they're not offering any solutions, right? With brain injury, it's kind of like a wait and see.
Oh, is that what it is? I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's not really a lot of like therapies and things at that time. This is 2012.
Okay.
There's more. It was interesting because around this time, like this movie Concussion came out and all this here in the US, there was all of this information because our veterans were coming back with TBIs and the NFL,
yes.
Our football players were getting a lot of them. And so there was actually a lot of focus on brain injury. So now there's more, but at the time, not so much. And I was very blessed because my mom had run a yoga studio. And so she knew a lot of people in kind of the alternative health space, and we just tapped that network. And so I was able to do a lot of things like hyperbaric oxygen treatments and neurobiofeedback. And we changed my diet completely. We did a lot of like craniosacral work and acupuncture. I mean, you name it. I gave it a go. But even with all of that, at my 1-year appointment, my neurologist said to me, look, Danielle, with this type of injury, your body's done the healing it's going to do. And this is just your new normal. And you need to shape your life around your symptoms and you need to move on. And I remember so vividly. Yeah. Like, how do you say that to somebody? I just remember thinking like, well, you're fired. Like if you think this is how the rest of my life is going to look, like, goodbye. I couldn't believe it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so I just, I will say though, that was a really pivotal time. You can look back on your life and, not everyone goes through a brain injury, but people go through rough times. And I think there's I call them inflection points, like, cause you can go back and you can see the point where something shifted. And this was an actual inflection point in my life because when I left there, I knew in my being, like on a soul level, this is not going to be my permanent reality. I knew I was going to get better. And I was convinced. Mm-hmm. But I was so emotionally and mentally drained and physically from the symptoms. And I thought, because I was having panic attacks all the time, Chris, like I was depressed about my past, but then if I were to think for a moment about my future, I would literally have a panic attack because I couldn't plan anything. I couldn't even plan 2 hours from now because I didn't know how I'd be feeling. Wow. And, I've got friends at this point, they're getting PhDs, they're going to business school, at the top business schools here, Harvard, Yale. Like I had a friend group that was high performing and, I was basically on the sidelines of life and it just caused nothing but severe anxiety. And I was very blessed. I started to go to therapy and my psychotherapist said to me, Danielle, at the end of all of this, you are going to have more emotional intelligence than any of these people you're telling me about. Mm-hmm. And he said, you're not going to have a diploma. There's going to be no piece of paper. He said, but you are going to have a skill set that is going to serve you so well in life You're going to be more compassionate. You're going to be able, if you want to be a mother, you'd be a better mother, a better partner. And I was so grateful he said that, because that was like this, it was like a thing for me to hold on to look forward to, and to kind of go, okay, so going through this is actually going to be beneficial, because at the time I was very much in a victim mentality where I felt like, I don't deserve this. Why is this happening to me? This shouldn't be happening. This isn't fair. And when he said that, it was almost like this moment of calm where I went, okay, I've got to move through this, and that's going to be a beneficial thing. And I also started around that time to just say, all right, I can't be depressed and anxious anymore. Like I cannot live like this. It's not happy. And it's a personal choice. My emotional state is a personal choice. And so I said, all right, we got to fix this. And it was not easy, but I just started a gratitude journal, and I started to just be present. And I started a spiritual practice without knowing what I was doing, because I couldn't think about the future, right? Because I get anxious, and I wouldn't allow myself to think about the past because I would get depressed. So I just had to force myself through sheer will to be in the present moment and to find something to make me happy right now. And really, it was just like, when I was in the present moment, I was like, well, there's everything to be happy about. Like, this flower is beautiful. The weather's nice. And my dog is like wagging his tail and really happy. And, we can go on a walk. And it totally changed my world. Yeah. And the depression and anxiety just went away.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. So now the anxiety has gone away. And tell us, how is it that you were able to heal your own body?
That is a great question. So I think
yes, it is a good question. It is a good question. And I'm sure there's a grand answer. We're waiting for it. Take your time.
So I unconsciously tapped into the law of vibration. Okay, we talk a lot about the law of attraction. I think a lot of people are familiar with this, right? We attract in things into our world, but that's a secondary law. The primary is the law of vibration that states the vibration you hold will attract in other things at that vibration. And I, as I just described, went and shifted my emotional state. Your emotions hold a vibration. So I had shifted myself into a space of gratitude, into a space of joy. I was holding a much higher vibration. And I kid you not, we get a phone call from an acupuncturist that had known my mom, had been a prior student of hers. And she said, I've come across a breakthrough. This is something that I've never seen in all my decades of work, and it's helping all of my clients. And she described it. She said, it's basically stimulating cellular repair. It's giving more signal to the body with the same signaling molecules the body knows. So it can't be allergic, no toxicity, and it does something different for everyone. She described how some people it was helping with their digestion. For some, it was helping with their hormones. And she said, I believe it would pass the blood-brain barrier and it would help Danielle. Now, my mom, Chris, is like super intuitive, and she was like, yeah, this is it.
She was like, okay.
I have a degree in biology. Okay. And I'm like, well, show me the research. I've never heard of these redox signaling molecules. And I was like, I totally blew her off. I was like, this lady's involved in some scam. Like, this is not like a legitimate thing. Yeah. I mean, it was so funny. And it's interesting because I think in life we expect things to show up in a certain way.
So true.
And I did not expect the answer to getting my physical health back to show up in a blue bottle that said ASEA. And I blew it off for 6 months. Like, this is like so wild to think about. For 6 months, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. And my mom, though, started using it because she had bought it. So my mom was like, well, if you're not going to drink it, I'm going to drink it.
So it's a drink. You drink it.
Yeah. So it's like, it's clear. It looks like water. And it's these big 32-ounce bottles. They have blue, like, packaging. Very pretty.
Very pretty.
And you drink like a shot of it, like 2 ounces. We do ounces over here. I think you guys do mLs, like 120 mLs.
Okay.
And so not much. And so she's drinking one of those in the morning, one at night. And my mom had bone on bone in her top knuckles. So she couldn't make a full fist. Like she couldn't grip a knife, right?
Okay.
And she was in a lot of discomfort. I mean, they were so swollen. And I was actually lucky that I was home because I could help prep dinner. Like together we were one person. Yeah. But so mom, 6 weeks into drinking this, like gets full range of motion back in her hands. And you can visibly see. Yeah. You can visibly see like that the redness is down, they don't look as painful. And she said that they weren't. And I'm like, Mom, it's a placebo. Like, are you aware of the placebo effect? Like, you believed it, so it happened. It wasn't this. But my dad was a bit more open, and he's like, no, I know how much like pain she was in. I'm going to try this because my dad had ended his football career because of an injury to his knee. And so he's always kind of been plagued with it. But he works out all the time to keep it strong. But, there's always been an issue. So he starts drinking it, and 10 days into drinking it, his knee was feeling better. And I was like, no way. And he's like, yeah, Danny, listen, like, I'm not wearing my brace when I'm working out. I'm doing more in my workouts. I'm not sore after my workouts. He said, I feel like I'm 30 years old again. And he was in his mid-50s.
Oh, wow.
So dad's more analytical. So dad's like, well, what is the research on this stuff? So he started digging a little bit deeper, and he found that they had been doing some research with athletes and finding that endurance was going up. And he was like, yeah, that's what I'm experiencing. And then he said, look, this is a huge field of science, redox signaling, REDOX, redox. And he said it was new. It was not in textbooks when I was in school. He said the first Nobel Prize was awarded like in the late 90s. And so this was something that was growing. And he said, as far as he could tell from his research, was that the only company globally that had been able to stabilize these molecules so you could put them back in your body. And he said, Danielle, this is a biotech discovery. This is huge. It cannot hurt you and it might help you. Just do it.
Okay, so dad put his foot down and he was like, okay. Exactly. You like, all right then. Okay, all right.
And he's like, we're paying for it. You're drinking it. Give it 6 months. And that was that. And I mean, it's so funny to look back because I would literally roll my eyes. I was like, guys, you're wasting your money. This was my attitude. But 3 months in, the pounding that had been relentless. So we're now 2 years out from my car accident.
Okay, that so you're like 25 now, or almost 25.
Yeah, or maybe and turning 26 soon.
Okay,
it was that summer. And it's 2014. And I'll never forget, like, the pounding just like wasn't there. It just stopped. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And all of a sudden, around the same time, my mental clarity came back. It was like, it had felt like I was like thinking through mud. Like I couldn't get the words out I wanted. Everything was just like, it just didn't seem clear. And it was like the world got crisp again and my energy came back. Like going to the grocery store used to be the most overwhelming, overstimulating thing because there's so many colors, there's so much light, there's so much noise. You have to think about the list and what you need and not to forget something. I used to have to nap for like 3 hours after going to the grocery store.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So that's how I sometimes I kind of gloss over how bad it was to try and just exist. And I wasn't having to nap. Like I could do the grocery store and then take the dog on a walk and then have a friend come over for dinner. And I wasn't needing to nap. And my parents were like, Danielle, don't push yourself. And I'm like, no, like something is happening. I'm feeling better. And we all got like cautiously optimistic. And, my cognitive therapist at the time, I had been seeing this woman for over a year weekly. And she said to me, Danielle, I've worked with brain injury for 30 years, and I've never seen someone have a rapid recovery so far out from their initial trauma. She said, with your type of injury, it does not happen. And she looked me dead in the eyes and she said, what in the hell is that stuff you started drinking?
Right.
And I started laughing because I was like, I thought it was salt water. I said, I have no idea what I'm drinking.
They said it was good.
And, yeah, they said it was good. They said it would help.
Oh my God.
And that, like, again, inflection point, right? Because I didn't know what it was. She said, well, we need to learn because my clients need to know. And so she and I got on the phone with a member of the medical board of this company. ASEA was the company, ASEA. And I listened to this doctor speak, and my mind went crazy with the potential. Because what I heard him say was basically, look, this replenishes your system's signaling. And we're just trillions of cells. Plants are just trillions of cells. Animals are just trillions of cells. Those cells have to talk. The reason that we can function is because our cells are always talking. And as you get older, you make less. This company figured out how you can replenish your supply again so you can communicate like you did when you were young, which means cells repair faster. Mutated cells get identified. And I just went, holy cow, this is non-specific. Like, it doesn't matter if this is a lung cell we're talking about, or a liver cell, or a pancreas, or a brain. Like for me, it doesn't matter. It goes into that body and repairs where that body needs it. So it will trickle up and impact any system of the body. Wow. And I just, yeah, you get it, right? Like when you see that, you go, holy cow, what does that mean? That transforms the way someone can address their health.
Yeah.
And it was like, you know, it's not clear sometimes as we go through life why things are happening the way they are. Mm-hmm. And I started to kind of see, it was almost like the fog was clearing. Like, here I am, I have a degree in biology, so I get it. You know, I get the science. I had spent 2 years learning how to teach, learning to educate people. And then I had gone through this wild journey with my own health, you know, and not found anything until this that helped me to repair myself, help my body to heal itself. And I thought, I think I'm supposed to educate people about this scientific breakthrough. And, you know, it just became so clear, and my soul was going, yes, like I'm getting goosebumps, you know, it's like, this is what you're supposed to do. And I don't know business. I'm like an introvert at heart. Okay. So like meeting people that I don't know causes like, I'm like, I get nervous. I start sweating. But my soul kept saying like, this is what you're supposed to do. And I started to take steps. I moved out of my parents' house. I moved down to Florida, and I Googled like networking, you know, how do I meet new people? And I just went out into that community and I started to meet people. And it is amazing how the divine will put the right people in front of you, the right opportunity. You know, you just like, I had a friend, a mentor tell me one time, Danielle, you cannot steer a parked car. So
okay now.
You need to get, right? You need to get the car moving. So he would tell me, just go out, go to the events, go to the luncheons, go meet people. Like you'll end up sitting next to the right person. Someone will refer you to somebody else. Someone will tell you about a different event. He said, you just need to move and it'll all start to unfold. And, you know, I now know spiritually, right? We always say like we're not in charge of how things happen or when they happen. We are in charge of seeking out the direction we want to take and starting to move in that direction. And the path will form under your foot before your foot hits the ground.
Yes.
And that's life. And it was like, you know, having that trust, and it's like, it is like a blind faith. But when you know in your soul the direction you're supposed to be going, you just move, you don't question. And, you know, looking back, this is now 2015. I started to do this. 2016 was like this whole year of, you know, discovery and getting out of my comfort zone and like learning how to not put my foot in my mouth when I spoke. And like, people are like, are you pouring salt water? I mean, it was like, you know, people were like, this woman's crazy. They never heard anything I was talking about. And then 2017, it was like, I had gone through the dark period, you know, where I was learning the lessons. I was gaining my confidence. I was learning to speak. I was learning to stand in my strength. I was opening my throat chakra, you know, so that the words came out powerfully. And I had started a very intense meditation practice. I was doing guided meditation twice a day, and it was moving energy through my body. Like all this blocked stuff was coming out. So 2016 was like transformational. And then 2017, you know, the inner work reflects externally. Sometimes there's a delay. And so 2017, my business just was like on this high. It just one thing after another, doors were opening, things were happening. That doctor that had explained redox to me, I I invited him down to Florida, promising that I'd put 100 people in a room for him to talk to. And I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do it. And so it was really an exciting time. And, ever since it's continued. It's like a beautiful snowball of good that has come, and business has gone global, and I've helped thousands of people with their health.
Oh my gosh, girl, let me give you a little of this. Yes. Wow. I mean, what a testimony and what a miracle to have happened for you, to have changed your life from this moment. And it's always that, we used to say that God helps those who help themselves. And, once you do make that moment to just want to do more, or that you want to be better, or that you want to achieve higher, and we start that turn in our mind in that direction, and it is there, like you say, that path will open right on up, because it's been there the whole time. We just were not aware of it. You couldn't see it, in the midst of the storm and the fog and all of that. But the path has always been there. And when we get set,
just waiting,
right?
Waiting.
Exactly. When it sets and it clears, then you can go ahead on and take that walk if you choose to or not. Oh my gosh, so awesome. So great. So great. I wanted to ask you, why is it that you feel that the human potential is the most underutilized resource in the world?
Yeah. So when I was on the sidelines of life, from my injury for a couple of years, I couldn't do much. Like, I had blackout fabric in my bedroom. I couldn't handle natural light. I couldn't get on computers and things, but I was watching. I was watching my family. I was watching friends occasionally, watching the news. And it just seemed like everyone was in this pattern of behavior, and they were in this like loop, just kind of like living this life where they were not pushing themselves. They were trying to stay comfortable in what they had, and like were scared, to lose it, or to move in a different direction. And they weren't happy. Like, I was watching these same friends that I had, jealousy over, like what they were doing. I was watching, they were miserable in their work. All they were doing was working. And they, as themselves, were not fulfilled. Like, they didn't feel fulfilled. And I started to realize, like, what I was going through, I was, as my therapist had said, like, I was finding this emotional intelligence. I was also waking up spiritually. And I was realizing, like, holy cow, there is so much more to this life. Like, we think society, at least here in the US, pushes you, do well in school, get a good job, become a good employee, climb the ladder, like blah, blah, blah. Like that, that's not it. That's not life. That's not why your spirit came here. Like, you came here to learn what you're capable of, to move through these blocks and things that have been limiting you, that your soul needs to process. Your soul has to learn so that you become stronger. And we forget that. And I was watching people, like, just not realizing who they really were. Like, I'm sitting there thinking, originally I thought I had lost everything, like I could no longer compete in snowboarding. I couldn't teach. I couldn't do anything in the world. And so I didn't know who I was. But it was such a blessing, because I started to ask the question, well, who am I? If I'm not the teacher, if I'm not the snowboarder, who am I? And I realized, like, I'm the capacity for whatever experience to move through. Like, I'm the sky. It doesn't matter what weather pattern is currently in my life right now. Like, I'm the sky. I'm the backdrop behind it. Like, I'm unconditional love. I am non-judgmental. You know what I mean? Like, that's right. You.
Right.
And that, when you're in that space, you have access to source, to the divine, to God, to whatever the term is for you. Your intuition deepens. You start to realize, whoa, and when I ask questions, the answers come. They're not coming from my thinking mind, that's been programmed down here on earth. Like, they're coming from infinite source, infinite intelligence. And there's so much potential in that. When you're tapped in, when you're tuned into that, like, it's like, the vision from a plane is very different from a person walking on earth. Like, when you can get something downloaded from a higher realm, it's going to help you navigate this one better. And so that's the potential we all have. Everybody has it. Like, I'm not unique. You're not unique. This is who we are.
Mm-hmm.
And we all forgot.
Yes.
And that is, to me, that's the potential sitting in all of us. It's like this seed, like waiting. And it's, as you said about the path, like it's always been there. It's always there. It's that we get so distracted by this world of form. We get distracted by, what the news or social media or whatever says we should be doing or what we should like. And we start searching. Like, I think everyone's looking for something. Everybody feels like this slight little emptiness. I've heard it described in different ways. And I think it's why people go out seeking, why they find hobbies, why they do a lot in school, why they go for relationships, to drink, whatever. They're trying to like fill that almost void. And you will never find it in the external world. Mm-hmm. That's what I learned during my accident. It is inside of you. The thing that you're looking for out there, you just have to turn around and go within. And you will find your wholeness is within you. It's that connection to your source. And meditation for me has been the tool to help me access that, to help me strengthen it, and that's a journey that will go on for decades to come. I know that I'm only like scratching the surface right now of what's there and what I'm capable of and my conscious level of awareness. It's just like there's more and more layers to it.
I love that. Yes, yes, yes. There are layers, right? And in time, they start to become a little more peeled. This one peels off and this one peels off, and we continue to learn and do. So it's an awesome way to definitely to lay it out like that. I love it. Can I ask you, do you live in the now of life?
Oh, yeah. That's the only place to be.
You know what? It is so true.
Yeah. If I let myself like go to the past, it's like I'll catch myself like, why are we even thinking about that? Like, that's gone. That's pointless. And if I ever catch myself feeling stressed out or anxious, it's because I'm thinking about the future. And I just go, stop, Danielle. Like, knock it off. Do what you can do right now to the best of your ability. I definitely like, I think about, I set intentions for my future. I set goals. I have visions of where I want to go, but then I just release it. And I say, okay, I have to show up as my best in this moment, trusting that this is part of the path that's going to take and bring in what it is that I want, knowing that I actually don't have control over a lot of how things are going to unfold.
Yes, exactly, like, right?
That's not for me.
I'm going to do my part. I'm just going to do my part, right? And which is enough, right? Sometimes we are stepping out of our bounds trying to worry about other things. It's like you do your part and the other will do its part. So
exactly,
let it align itself nicely, for sure. Can I ask you about mind control techniques? What are the mind control techniques? And I know that you are using this to intentionally creating your life. Can you share with us some of those techniques?
Absolutely. So I wrote a little ebook about this because I wanted people to be able to go over it again, like really understand it. And it's available to anybody. We can share how they can get it. But
yeah. Oh, yes. All of this information will be posted. They will have all of it. Yes.
Perfect. So there's 4 steps. The first is to observe. All right. You need to observe your mind because your thoughts are creating your world. And sometimes they're not helpful. And I learned this through my accident because all I had was to be with myself. I became very intimately familiar with myself. And I started to observe my thoughts and going, I was watching other people first, and I was seeing how they were kind of having these conflicts that I could see them coming, because I'm like, well, this person is coming in with this mindset and belief, and this one with this one, and they meet about this issue and it blows up, and it's not even about the issue at hand. It's really about these thought patterns that are going in their mind. And I started, not with judgment, but just with complete fascination, started watching and like seeing things through this lens. And then I realized, I'm not immune to it. Like, I also have these patterns of thinking and these beliefs in my mind. And so I just started to observe them. And that's really the first step for everybody, is just witness, write it down. You're going to find that you get triggered. And this is the second step. It's to realize that these moments where you're triggered, where a situation unfolds that all of a sudden you get angry, or, your partner does something and you're like, oh my gosh, they don't love me, or they don't listen to me, or, whatever it is. We all have these moments, right? We have these feelings that come up. Realize this, like we are so used to blaming. Oh, don't do that because you made me feel this way. Like, this situation isn't unfair. It shouldn't have happened like that, and I don't want to feel uncomfortable the way that I'm feeling. And so we try to shape our life and control life so that we don't get triggered. All right. We try to teach the people around us not to press our buttons and all that stuff. And that's the wrong way to go. Like, you need to embrace these triggers because they're your teachers. Realize that they're happening because you have something within you that is actually not serving you. Maybe a belief from childhood where you feel like, for me, there was one of like not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy. I think that's why I was always pushing, trying to perform, whatever it was. Like, we can see how it manifested, and there were good things that came from it, but I realized like that got triggered often inside of me. And I'm like, what the heck? Why is that there? Like, I am worthy. I am good enough. Like, this is ridiculous. But I didn't know it was there because we have these subconscious programs and limiting beliefs. In yoga, my teacher, one of my mentors, my spiritual teacher, she gave a beautiful explanation of this. And she'd say, look, it's like we have these karmic seeds inside of us. And the way that yogis describe it, they say groups of souls will travel together lifetime to lifetime to create the weather patterns for one another so that those seeds sprout into weeds and the person realizes that they have it. Okay, so we should actually be very grateful for our siblings, our parents, our partner for triggering us, because that's what they came here to do, to create the weather so we could realize this seed of unworthiness, this seed of not feeling good enough, this seed of not being heard, whatever your seed is, could get realized so you could work on it, so you could release it, because it's keeping you, talk about vibration. It's a low vibration to hold, not feeling worthy.
Yeah, it is.
Not feeling good enough. And so what will happen is, again, you'll draw in things at that level. So what was happening in my life was I was constantly bringing in situations, relationships, I think just all these things that were triggering this not feeling good enough, not worthy feeling. Well, life was literally trying to wake me up. It was trying to say, Danielle, this keeps happening again and again because you're drawing it in. But I didn't realize that. And that takes a level of ownership and responsibility that I think a lot of people, it's easier to feel like a victim.
Of course.
It takes a lot.
It takes a lot to do. Yeah.
To say like, oh, that's on me. I drew that in. But once you realize, like, this is a game, guys, stop taking it so seriously. Realize like, oh, this is how the game works. Like, that this situation unfolded for my benefit so that I could, process through this stuff. Then you start to realize that you have a choice. And this is where the third step is. This is control. There's I love this equation. It's the external world plus your internal response equals your reality.
Oh, snap.
Now, right?
Wow.
Your internal response, so many people, it's their programs, it's their limiting beliefs, it's these immediate reactions that we have that are how we're interacting with life and thus creating our realities. And the moment you start to observe and realize, you start to see the things that are unhelpful, how it's really not helpful to feel like I'm not good enough, where you could replace that interaction with a different seed, with a different intention, with a different way of being in the world. And therefore, you cannot control the external environment in a lot of ways. Like, there's a lot of things that are just, they're going to happen. They're going to unfold in the way that they're going to unfold. They've already shown up. By the time they're in your life, like, there's nothing you can do. Just accept it. Right. It's already there. Like, you can resist it. It's not going anywhere. So you can control how you respond. And I always say the first reaction is free, right? That's that internal seed. That's the thing that gets triggered. And then you decide, is that the way I really want to interact with this? Or do I want to respond differently?
So true.
And your reality will start to change. And here's the beautiful thing. The fourth step in all of this, what I call mind control, is creation. You will realize that you actually create your world from the inside out, and that you get to decide who you want to be, how you want to show up, how you want to interact with all the things life throws at you. And just like I did, when you change your internal state and you work through all these blocks, right? You have to work through them. That is your life's journey.
Yeah, you got to do the work.
And you have to. And, it's not easy, but like,
Mm-mm.
it actually is amazing on the other side. Like going to the gym and lifting weights is not easy, but it's amazing on the other side.
Yeah, when
Like,
you can get into that cute outfit and wear, you know what I mean?
there you go.
There's a cause and effect. So yeah, you're right.
Uh-huh.
Definitely.
And that's the space that I want everyone to wake up to. That's the potential. That's the capacity that everybody has. And I want people to realize they are the creator of their life.
Hmm.
This is something that you do have control over, but it takes you mastering your own mind, realizing the potential inside of you, and you've got to go through that process. And that happens to me, my process, and what I help take other people through.
I love that. I love that. Do you think you'll write another book?
Yeah, so I had intended to I really want to write a book about all that I've gone through and just share, so that my story can help somebody, as long as it just helps one person, on their path to go, whoa, okay, like maybe this is happening for a reason. But I felt so overwhelmed by the idea of writing a book. I started with the ebook. Chris, full disclosure, I was like, okay, I can write an ebook.
Well, hey, I mean,
Start
to
there.
me, a book is a book. Ebook, whatever, it's still book in there. You're still able to share. So just the fact that you're able to get something out where people can access it, you know what I mean? That's it. Putting it
And I
where
think
we
more will
can,
come.
and the world will, yes. And then when it's time, like you say, when things are supposed to be how they are, and it's time for you to put that information out, then that's when it'll happen. So, but we
Yeah.
thank you for the ebook. Definitely. Do you think this is the message that you want people to walk away with? Are these 4 steps? Or is there anything else
Yeah,
from the ebook that you feel you would?
I'd say it's really about dealing with the obstacles and challenges in front of you and embracing them rather than running away from them or feeling like, I don't deserve this. I just want people to realize like life is unfolding for your benefit every single day. And it's because life, the divine, like is trying to remind you of your strength and who you are and what you're capable of. And, we somehow missed the message. So many of us are going through life feeling like it's a struggle and a strain and full of stress. And it doesn't have to be that way.
So true.
And I want people to, embrace that knowing. And if those steps can help them, I hope they do.
I love that. I love that. Can I ask you what 5 words come to mind when you think of yourself?
Wow, good question.
Well, thank you, Miss Matthews.
It's always interesting, to reflect on yourself. And
Yes,
I
this
think
is it. And a lot of times we don't. It's not something people sometimes feel comfortable to say about themselves, but you feel like if you can't say it, then how are other people supposed to say it?
exactly. I would say one word is inspirational.
Love that.
I would say strength. There is a strength to my character for sure, and my mind. I would say leader, certainly a strong leader in business. Creative, which is interesting because that's a word prior to my accident. I would have said I'm not creative, but now I realize like that is all part of life. And yes, every single person has access to creativity.
Yes, we do. We sure do.
Mm-hmm. And teacher, I would say, that's another way I would describe myself is someone that is a teacher at heart. And I know that I'm here to help teach other people and, move them along their spiritual path.
I love that. That's good answers. Yes, wonderful answers as well. Let's see, we said inspirational, strength, leader, creative, and teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, love it,
Oh,
love
there's
it.
my five.
Yes, I love it, I love it. You mentioned that you're an advocate for people to have multiple sources of income. Is there a
Mm-hmm.
particular reason why? I'm an advocate too, but I want to know what you say. What do you say?
Well, that was the biggest thing. Like when my accident happened, I couldn't work and I had been trained my whole life. And I think this is how like the school system trains you is you need to show up to get paid. You clock in, you clock out X number of hours, X amount of income. We exchange our time for money. That is the world that I grew up in and the world that I lived in until my accident because I couldn't work physically. I wanted to. Every part of my being wanted to, but I physically couldn't handle it. And so I could not earn an income. And I did not want to go to the government for money because it is easy to get sedentary when somebody hands you something. And so when I got healthy, it was like, okay, I've got to find a way where I can earn an income even if I lose my health again. Like there's got to be a way where I don't have to exchange my time for money. And I had no idea. I mean, zero clue how that would even be possible. And I'll never forget the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad came across my path. And one of the first books I read, and I like at the beginning of this book, he talks about his rich dad and his poor dad. And he like makes you guess which one is like the college educated professor and which one is like the uneducated guy. And I thought the rich one was the college graduate, right? I was like totally like, yeah, because I was so programmed that that's what you need to do to excel in life. And it like shocked me. Like my jaw hit the floor when he was like, no, that's my poor dad. And I was like, what?
Wow.
So I like feverishly read that book because I'm like, what do I not know? We don't know what we don't know. And it was like, oh, entrepreneurship. Whoa, like you can create value in the marketplace and be paid. And you can do things that will create a residual, a passive income. And that was one of the reasons, like I shared earlier, all of the reasons that ASEA made sense for me to align with. Biotech company, they needed people to educate. You know, I had such a strong story. But I also saw it as, look, they're telling me that if I do this in 5 years from now, I could walk away from what I've created. And if I do it right, and I have systems and I get the right people in place, I could walk away and that will continue to grow and continue to pay me. And I thought, that's what I want. And, you know, network marketing is a way of business that is beautiful when done well. It's terrible when not done well. But it is a way to create a side income, you know, that then if you do it correctly, you can build it into a full-time income. And so I started to explore that. I started to explore investing. I started, you know, and I'm still like, this is a process I'm continually in of like, how do you build these different buckets of money? Because you don't want all your eggs in one basket because you never know, you know? And I think with the pandemic, like so many people were caught like, whoa, you know, I never thought I wouldn't be able to go to the bar, right? That a bartender would ever be out of work. And then boom, they were. And so if like people need to understand from as young as you can, start looking at ways that you can create different income streams. You know, every wealthy person in the world has many. That's how they do it.
Love it. Love it. I agree too. My grandmother used to say that you should always have another source of income, that everything can't come from one. If you lose that, then what are you going to do? So same, it's always thinking to where else am I going to work this out to make income from somewhere outside of my regular job. That. So I love that. Really smart tips. Definitely. I wanted to ask, what word describes why you are here?
Self-discovery.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I honestly think that's why we're all here. I mean, this is a journey of self-discovery. This is learning about you as a spiritual being and the capacities that you have, the strengths that you have, you know, the weaknesses too, right? This world is one of duality, right? We have the light and the dark, and we have that within us too. We have our strengths and our weaknesses, and it's embracing both. It's understanding, you know, the limitations as well as the gifts that you have. Like we each have beautiful gifts. And I think we're meant to discover during our time here what those gifts are.
Yes, I agree. And how we can use them. We can use them. Definitely. Awesome answer. Awesome. I like to close with this final question. Is your glass half empty or half full?
I mean, always, right? It's half full. Is my perspective on life is always the positive.
Yes.
But I always get excited because I'm like, all right, well, there's more. that glass can get filled up even more. So let's do it.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, would you say we need a couple glasses lined up then, right? When it's full up, it's just spill into the next one. We just fill it and spill it over. Yes.
That's how it's supposed to go.
I like it. I like it. Thank you so much. Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners?
would just say, let this question always oscillate in your mind. What is this challenge making possible? And if you go through your days in life like that, you are going to have a different perspective through the hard times, through the challenging times, for work issues with your kids, your partner. What is this challenge making possible? If this were happening because you're supposed to learn a lesson, like what might that lesson be? And that's something I'll leave with everybody.
Ooh, yes. Nice, nice, nice. Can you tell everyone how they can reach you if they're interested to find out more about you?
Absolutely. I'd say probably the easiest place is on Instagram. It's just my name, Danielle Matthews, but you got to have an underscore at the beginning and at the end. And I've got in there's a link in my bio. You can grab the ebook from there. You can learn more about the redox signaling. I also have the guided meditations that I do, Yoga Nidra. I've got ones there that you can do yourself. And I'd love to connect. Like if you follow me over there, just say hey and send me a message that you heard me on here and let me know if I can help in any way. I'm happy to.
I love that. And we've got your website, brainbodyself, one word.com. And all of this will be posted in the information for the episode and as well that we're listed. So they'll have all that information for sure. Thank you so much. You have really dropped some awesome knowledge on us today. I just love the idea of your 4 steps for the mind control techniques. To observe, to realize why you might be being triggered, 3 to control, and 4 to creation. Just so awesome on how you put that out. And it does start on the inside first, and we need to make these choices there, and the effect will pull on the outside. We need to reset our vibration. I love how you mentioned that as well, and the redox signaling. Super, just awesome. And I loved how you ended us on what is this challenge making possible? If we ask that a lot of times, I think that it would save us from getting too deep into the challenge before we realize that we shouldn't have never been involved in it in the first place.
Exactly. Save yourself the mental suffering.
Right? This is good. This needs to be posted up. I love that. We just want to thank you for taking some time out to be a guest here today. It has been so awesome. And I believe that people out there who are listening can really be blessed to take away something that you have given us today. And just so great. Just so great.
Oh, well, thanks for having me on, Chris. You ask wonderful questions and appreciate all that you're doing here and the space you've created here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's a blessing. I'm happy to be able to meet wonderful people like yourself, and just that people can share their story. It's just awesome, and I'm happy that I can do my part as well. So thank you so much. We wish you a grand and great day, rest of your morning and afternoon. We'll see you real soon. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. And thank you to all our listeners listening in to another episode of Glass Half Full, a podcast and a safe platform for everyone to share their life experiences. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Levens. Please subscribe, follow, and rate this podcast on Apple Music and Spotify for more learning experiences. Until next time, know you are blessed. See ya.